What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Missing Crypto Show. I'm your host, Randi Hipper, back at it again on this lovely Thursday. If you guys are here, you're ready to get zesty, ready to learn about today's guest, make sure you smash these likes, subscribe, share the stream out with friends, and also comment in the chat. Let us know that you're here. The more we interact with the stream and give it love, the more YouTube shares it out with others. So please also check out today's lovely sponsor, Bybit Exchange. You can get great bonuses by checking and clicking that link in the live chat and in the description. I want to waste no time. We have an amazing guest today, a UFC fighter in the making. Actually, not in the making. He's doing it, and he's rising to the top. Ode Osbourne, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
How you doing, Randy? How are you?
Good, good. I love your background. So where are you right now? Is this your studio?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one of the studios in the studio building. There's probably three studios in this building. Actually, there's actually a crypto podcast going on at the studio next door. Actually,
Stop. That's so funny. So you're like kind of in an influencer building of some sort, a content creation building.
yeah. Yes, there and the owner, he is amazing. Him and he's like one of my best friends now. He kind of gives me free reign to like just make my own shows and do what I want. And they air the episodes once every week. But if you're ever out in Vegas, I would love to connect you to one of the guys. He also has a channel. It's called I forgot what it's called. Damn it, I was on it too. I was on it. It's like it
If
doesn't
you
matter.
remember it,
But
you'll bring it up later. And
yeah,
definitely
I'll shoot
text
you in a
me too.
message. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I think you're really cool, Odie. And like I was saying pre-show, you're fighting in the UFC, you're throwing punches and whatnot. And you're also involved in crypto. You have a podcast. So you kind of dip your toe in everything, which I really respect. But I want to get to know you a little bit before you got to the UFC, before you got a Zesty podcast and living in Vegas, probably having In-N-Out Burger, which we could mention later. So tell me about your life, Odie. Did you grow up here? Because I know you're nicknamed the Jamaican Sensation. So where did that come from?
So the Jamaican sensation kind of came in, because I'm from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. I moved to the States when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
I lived in Flatbush and then Putnam and then moved to Long Island, So I came here about 3 months before 9/11 happened in 2001.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I lived probably 45 minutes away from everything. So it was a little bit of a culture shock. And I spent a lot of time living in New York. Then we moved to Florida because my mom hated the cold because you went from Jamaica to New York, So went to Florida, ended up wrestling in high school, started wrestling as a freshman all the way through my senior year. Wanted to wrestle in college, then ended up in Wisconsin. So that led to me fighting. But when I was fighting, I needed like an identity, and I was kind of like struggling to find my way and find out who is Ode Osbourne. You know what I mean? And I kind of always kept my Jamaican past in the shadows because I always wanted to live like the American dream. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
just one day remembered like everything. All I wouldn't have gotten to where I am if it wasn't for my past, and I just owned the Jamaican sensation. And so that's how that name came about.
I love that. And I love Jamaica. I've been there a few times and I think the people are
Really?
so great. Yeah, I was there in November
Yeah.
actually. So pretty recently. I wanted to ask you, right? Like, a lot of
Mhm.
people they go to Jamaica, they're expecting like, in food, they want to get jerk chicken. And I'm a big fan. But is that like a basic tourist food or is there something better we should be going for? Like that's my question.
It is. There's a type of chicken called, it's not a stew, but it's called brown stew chicken.
Mm.
That is really good. That's a food. I think that's number one. It's not a stew. It's a type of chicken. It's brown stew is just the name of like how they marinate the chicken. That is my favorite, the browns. And then there's this bread called Festival. The reason why it's called Festival is because back in the day, not back in the day, they still have festivals and carnivals that go on in Jamaica all the time. And they sell them, they sold them, they originated there, so they call them festivals. But it's like a dough. Here in Las Vegas and Florida and New York has the best Jamaican restaurants. If you ever get a chance to go, I would just try everything. Oh man, the food is oh, don't even get me started.
No, no, I want to get you, sorry, because like I feel like when I go there, and especially if you're staying like at a hotel, they push you like the basic stuff. Like I want to know like what's the real good stuff, and like I know like when I was at the hotel, like a lot of like Jamaicans, they were telling me like really good food, and that like even if you just go across the street from the hotel, like you'll find a lot better like actual jerk chicken. Like they were giving us like grilled chicken, and apparently that's not how you should really do it. Like you have to marinate it and all this stuff, right? Is that true?
Yep. You got to
Yeah.
marinate it for a whole day, for 24 hours in the Jamaican jerk sauce. That's what gives it that Jamaicanness. And you
Yes.
can't grill it. You got to smoke it. You know what I mean? That's what gives it like a slow smoke. Oh, there's so much that goes into it. But then you got to try, if you've never had Jamaican rice and peas, you got to try the Jamaican rice. It's the greatest thing ever. It's
Okay.
so good. Do you like coconut?
Yes.
So what they do is they get like there's like coconut. There's two types of coconut. There's one you can drink and one you can't drink. The one you can drink is like it looks clear like coconut water. The
Hmm.
one you cannot drink has a milky base like coconut milk. That's the brown ones. There's the green ones, the yellow ones, which is okay to drink. The brown ones is just too concentrated. So if you drink it, it's gonna hurt your stomach. But it's great to cook with. And they what they do is they cut up like, whole bunch of spices and herbs, and then they pour oil in the pot, and they kind of like let that simmer. Then they pour the coconut milk in there, and they cook up all the herbs and spices into the coconut milk. Then they pour the rice in there, and then it all gets soaked up into the rice, and it's like, oh, yeah,
Oh
you
my
got carried away.
gosh, that sounds delicious. And I think like of course the quality of food in Jamaica is a lot better. Like the chicken was a lot better, the fruits even taste a lot different. Like, I'm sure you noticed like moving to from Jamaica where you get fresh everything pretty much to New York where,
The lighting's
a
better.
lot of stuff is shipped in. Like our like the pineapple like it has no flavor compared to Jamaica. It's like full of flavor and things like that. So that must have been an adjustment as well, the quality of food for you.
Oh yeah, 100%. But you know, life definitely was easier here. You know what I mean? Because America is one of those places where you can literally be anything. If you know what I mean. If one thing doesn't work out, it can be another thing. In Jamaica, it's like it's hard because our country is so impoverished. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Here in America, like oh man, as long as you work extremely hard at whatever it is you're doing, you'll be fine. You might not be successful right away, but success isn't measured by an overnight strategy. You know what I mean? You're gonna fail a lot of the times, but if you dedicate yourself 10 years into something, your chances are you're going to be successful at that thing. If you're not, then you could try something else. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty about here is especially in the environment that we live now, no one wants to put in the work anymore. So like I see what you're doing and you're putting in so much work for how young you are and your generation. You keep putting in all this work. It's crazy the amount of knowledge that you're going to have and the amount of influence that you're going to have because of your personality. And, you're going to get people that's going to like tease you because they have nothing better to do. So they're going to come on and tease you and talk a lot of crap because that's what they do. Oh, you're so young. You don't know anything about Bitcoin. Oh, your voice, all kinds of stuff, because people always will have something to say. You're never going to please everybody. It is impossible. The goal isn't to please everybody, it's to please the willing. You know what I'm saying? And it's very important to have someone like you leading the pack instead of someone putting their ass on OnlyFans, getting 1 million subscribers.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I
So
really do appreciate it. That was very inspirational. And I do
yeah.
believe you're correct. It's like it's like Bitcoin in a way. Like, it had to take a few years for it to really pop off, people to,
Hmm.
really flock to it. And I think again, like you put in the work, then eventually you get somewhere. And I'm hoping for that. And I know like you're definitely an example because you've moved around a lot, right? You moved from
Oh
Jamaica to
yeah.
New York and then down to
Hmm.
Florida, I think you said, right? What
Yep.
was that like kind of transition like? So you went from tropical, very warm weather to New York where it's cold, culture shock. People are really different in the way they act, being that, there are a lot of Jamaican communities, but it's like,
Yep.
Queens and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But
Queens has more Jamaicans than Jamaica, I feel like.
Literally, it's
For
Jamaica
real.
Queens. Um,
Yeah, my dad lives in Queens.
yeah, still. So he's still there?
Yep. Yep, my dad is still there. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's still living there.
yeah, I know there's like a big Jamaican community in Queens. And then like there was like a good Jamaican restaurant in Coney Island, but I don't know if it's still there. I remember it was like the only like really decent one near me. But anyway,
Mhm.
sidetracking again. You went through a lot of moving. What was it like to adjust to New York and like the way people lived and just kind of trying to
Hmm.
acclimate yourself to the different ways like schooling is a lot different here as well. It's kind of like
Mhm.
more intense. Like, it's crowded, people are like grr all the time.
Yeah, that honestly, I got really overwhelmed and I kind of broke down and started crying. The
Oh,
schools made me so overwhelmed, but that was the only thing that I was overwhelmed by. Like living here, I was like amazed. I was like at awe because American life is different. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up with like hot water or being able to go to the grocery store and get whatever I wanted to get. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom was like, "Yeah," took me to the grocery store and she's like, "Yeah, pick out whatever you want," and it was like heaven for me. I've never had that experience before. I grew up extremely poor in Jamaica, didn't have a lot. Kind of like. Uh, in a rural area where it was like there was whatever was there to eat that day, that's what was there. You know what I'm saying? There was no options. You go to the grocery store and you pick stuff out. And so I was very appreciative of that. Even though I was getting like all this like anxiety in school, I didn't care about that because I was happy where I was, and I always wanted to be in America.
wow. Like you came here even at a young age, you had that idea of like the American dream.
Yes, I always had that as a kid because I felt like I was always that kid where people were just kind of dismissed. I was always very dismissive, and you can probably relate because you're a kid in an elder person's game. Solely like to say, but
Yeah.
I think it's a foolish terminology. But you probably get dismissed a lot because you're so young. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that feeling, it drives you. It drove me. You know what I'm saying? It's like a drive where I'm like, I want to show you. And I always had that feeling, that drive where I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna show them, and I'm gonna make them respect me, and I'm gonna make them appreciate me, and I'm gonna make them love me. But you have to also be careful because that can also be a detriment if you drive into the I'm gonna make them love me too much, then you kind of lose yourself. But um once you're so smart and you're very wholesome person, so you'll figure it out. You know what I mean? You got to struggle in this life, and that's the only way to be successful. Nothing that is worth fighting for is easy. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be a struggle. It's called there's a great it's a poem, The Road Less Traveled By. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've heard about one. The road less traveled, two roads diverged in the yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by. It's the same concept with what we're doing. It's the same. It's like the whole Bitcoin thing. We talk about Bitcoin, right? Two roads diverge in the yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by. Everyone's on this money, gold, art thing, and there's the few that is, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be a different way. Like, you're telling me that we found gold, we found this shiny metal object years ago, and we're just like, huh, you know what? This will be our currency. Ooh, shiny, and you're telling me that this is what we're using to attach our money to, and we've been printing money like crazy. Like, no, there has to be something else. Boom, Bitcoin comes along. You know what I'm saying? And there's a few people who are skeptical. Actually, a lot of people who are skeptical, but it is the road less traveled by. I want to see what else is out there. So I ventured into the Bitcoin markets, and I found a lot of happiness because I was like, wow, this is like secure, especially right now with all these banks that are collapsing.
Yeah.
I made a tweet the other day, right, where I was like saying Bitcoin is like the younger sibling. Remember when you were younger and you're playing with the older kids and they would never pick you, and then one
Yeah.
day, one day they were like, "Randy, come on our team," and you're like, "Yes!" And then that was your time to shine. That's how it is right now with the banks and Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like, I've been waiting my entire life for this moment.
Basically, since its genesis block, Satoshi put 2009, I believe, put in the genesis block of Bitcoin, the headline, second bailout for banks in the UK. So yeah, 100%. This is what Bitcoin's been waiting for. And you, again, waited for your career to really pop off. You put in the work, and you were wrestling in high school. What made you start wrestling to begin with? Why didn't you play soccer, play basketball, go a different route?
Played football. I always liked why I grew up kind of like watching Jackie Chan and like, always wanted to be like a martial artist or a ninja or a soldier or something like I don't know, I like action. So I played like football and I wrestled because I like combat. I like hands-on sports, so I did wrestling after football season because I was like, okay, this is as hands-on as it's gonna get. But turns out I liked wrestling more than I liked football. And so I just because here's the thing. In football, if my team lost, it was okay, the quarterback was off or the running back, fumbled the ball or the kicker missed, a field goal. But in wrestling, it's all me. I get all the blame. And for as much as I put in, that's the reward I'm going to get out of it. However much work I put into something like wrestling, that's gonna be the result and what I get out, and that's life, you know.
Wow, I really like that. I like how you were like, you didn't kind of like go with like the pack, as they say. You
Mm.
went on the road like less traveled. You said, okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna, take on my own responsibility, just like being an individual. I really do respect that. And then being hands on, wrestling is, like you said, as hands on as it can get. Was it scary to start wrestling? Were you like that little kid at the time, like as like a freshman, looking up at the senior and like being scared to wrestle them, or like how was that experience for you? I'd be scared. I'd get tossed.
no way. I was extremely competitive, man. Like I was so competitive. Like I was just like, I'm gonna beat all these seniors. I'm gonna beat all these juniors, you
Yes.
know. But I got my ass handed to me the first year, and I was pissed. So in the summertime, while they were, playing video games, I was in the wrestling room with the coach because I want to beat them all the next year, and that's when I leveled up because I came from like that immigrant mentality of, you got to work harder than everybody else because you're like a thousand steps behind. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I worked my ass off, and that next year I was one of the top dogs in the wrestling room, and I was the one dishing out, ass beatings to seniors. And then I placed at the state tournament as a sophomore. I was the first kid in my high school to ever place at the state tournament as a sophomore.
Wow.
And then I went on to place as a junior and a senior, and then I became the first to ever place three times in high school.
Whoa, you're a king there. And then you like really pursued all of this too. Do they have like your picture somewhere in your high school? This was Florida, right? By the time you were in high school, you were in Florida,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yep. This is in Florida.
Wow.
I was in the Hall of Fame for wrestling and my academics. I ended up getting in the Hall of Fame because I was captain of the wrestling team. Like I said, placed three times, so I was in the Hall of Fame there. I am in the Hall of Fame there.
Wow. Legend status. That's like when the school really validates you in a way. But
Yeah, but yeah,
yeah,
but listen, it's high school. It don't mean anything. It's high
yeah.
school. I'm like, then I was like, oh yeah, that's great. But now I'm like, it's high school, And I
True.
got and I have to keep myself humble. It's always important. Like it's always there's a fine line. You have to appreciate what you have, but also keep yourself humble. You know what I mean?
Good point. I enjoy that 100%. You
Mm,
always have to keep a level head. And I've personally seen that a
yeah.
lot. And, especially growing up in social media where I've seen so many people become content creators, rise to the
Hmm.
top. And especially if they have like sometimes with social media, you have the blessing of overnight success. And some people,
Hmm.
they take that, they get too ahead of themselves and they kind of get like egotistical in a way. And then they
Hmm.
get overwhelmed and they burn out. And then all of a sudden you don't hear from them anymore, it's because they didn't keep that level head. So 100% you are correct. So past high school, you're in college. Did you you were still wrestling in college at the time, or where did you think like your life was kind of headed? Did you want to pursue this full time?
Randy, honestly, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. Honestly, I knew in the moment that I wanted to wrestle, that was it. I was like, I'm gonna wrestle in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I knew. Like I wasn't the brightest. I was just like, all right, well, I'm not like interested in this, that, or the other thing. So what am I gonna do? I don't know. Let's go do some wrestling in college. So I went to college and I wrestled for a year. And I didn't even finish college because they dropped the wrestling program after my first year.
No, you got
Hmm.
rugged.
Yeah, I did. I
Oh
got
my
rubbed
gosh.
bad.
Down bad.
Yeah, yeah. And
Whoa.
and and I placed. I was a freshman. I placed at the national. No, I didn't place. So I beat the number one ranked kid in the national tournament. I made it to nationals my first year, and I was just like, yeah, the next 3 years is looking like it's going to be on the up and up. And nope. So I found martial arts though. You know what I mean? That's why like I said, I'm a believer in God, and he points me in the right direction that I need to go. And when I found martial arts, it was a game changer for me. It was a game changer because that was the outlet I needed.
Ooh, so how did you find martial arts? Tell us about that.
After I got done wrestling, I found this martial arts gym down the road, and I was like, okay, I can either go back to Florida and just, start over and do something new, or I can use my wrestling talents in martial arts and learn striking. And so I found a gym, and I didn't have a job, so I couldn't pay for membership. And the coach just like, I don't know, he liked my spirit, and him and I got along. And so he was like, you know what? Don't worry about like paying me. Just come here, train, and you know what I mean? Like just show up. And
Oh.
he's had a really good heart. He had a really good heart. And I was from Florida too, so I had no discipline. I was kind of a degenerate. I was just like all over the place, no structure. And he taught me a lot of discipline. He always said, if I wanted to be in the UFC or a UFC champion, I do possess the abilities, but it's something I had to work hard for. And I knew I had to work hard, but I didn't understand it to that like level until now. I know what he means now by I have to work hard because world by like 22. I'm 31 now. And I realized like, oh shit, okay, this is what he means by I have to work hard for it. Okay. All right. Okay. There's gonna be lots of ups, lots of downs, and trials and tribulations. All right. But the ups and downs are good because you need those things in order for you to build up on your platform, on your foundation, right? If you get things too soon and too easy, you're going to fumble it because you don't know how to handle adversity. But when you get it, like when God says you need it or you should take it, then you've been through a lot and you are like, okay, now I know how to handle this. So whenever anything bad happens, it's just um, helping you to perfect your future.
100%. And like you said, this is a lesson that you've been kind of learning and getting adjusted to for years now. How long has it been since you started training to where you're at now?
I started in 2012, end of
Oh.
2011. Yeah, I had my first fight in 2013. I was training at this gym and there was a last minute opportunity, and my coach was like, "Hey, I know you haven't like fought or anything, but there's a guy, he wants to fight. You want to take this fight?" And I was like, "Sure." Did it. I did phenomenal. And he was like, "Hey, you have an opportunity. You have so much talent. You have an opportunity of getting far in this game." And yeah, so I stuck with it. Never lost a fight under him. Amateur or professional. He ended up like passing away in a motorcycle accident, and I ended up leaving that gym, going to a different gym. Ended up taking two losses. I was 4-2, never lost before in my life. Just took two losses, just like crushed, crushed. Didn't know what direction I was gonna go, and prayed, and just like finding my way, finding my way, finding my way. And finally I found a good gym. And, I just rattled off like 6 wins in a row. Dana White had a contender series show, and how the Contender Series operates is if you are a fighter on there and they think that, out of the 12 fighters, if you're one of the most exciting, they give you a contract that night in the UFC. And so I knew that was the once in a lifetime opportunity that I had. So I had to leave it all out there in the cage, and I got the contract into the UFC that night in 2019. Yeah.
Wow. Well, how old
So
were
that
you
was
when you had your first fight?
my first fight ever. I would have been 21 maybe.
21. Wow. You started really young because I had
Yeah.
Chris Cyborg on the show as well. And she started, I believe, when she was 19. So you guys were super, super young getting into the
Yeah.
ring. That's wild. And then
Yeah, it was
2019, the UFC. So you went in there with so much on the line, basically. You were training your butt off for
yeah.
years. You finally had your shot and you made it that night. What was it like getting that contract, hearing that you made it?
Oh man. At the time, it was everything that I had ever dreamed of. And it was like I had just did it. You know what I mean? And it was the greatest feeling on the face of the earth. But now I'm like looking back, I didn't do it. That was just me getting started, and that's the mindset you have to have when you reach certain mile points. You can't let the mile point be bigger than it. You have to be bigger than the mile point because I let the mile point be bigger than myself, and I ended up losing my first fight because I got distracted because ego and mentality and everything. I've forgotten why. I forgot about that kid who was in Jamaica who wanted to be loved, who wanted to be cared about, who had that fire. I forgot about that person, and so it helped me, like I said, struggles, right? So because I lost, that was my struggle. It helped me remember all of my I guess reasons for doing why it is I was doing it. And yeah, so I put myself above the mile point, and I didn't let it be bigger than me. And if that's one lesson where I can tell anybody, it's don't let the things that are material become bigger than yourself. Always keep it below you, because at the end of the day, none of it really matters. And always know why you want to do what you want to do. Like I want a platform to motivate and inspire and to share my message and my story for everybody. That's what the UFC is giving me. I want to be a UFC champion as well. But at the end of the day, if I don't become a UFC champion, it's not who I am. I'm Ode Osbourne. I am the Jamaican sensation, and that'll never change.
Oh my gosh, just words of wisdom, one after the other. And definitely you had to recalibrate yourself after that. You took the L the first fight in the UFC. I
Mm.
mean, listen, it was your first fight, so you couldn't like, kick yourself that bad. But
Yeah.
pursuing from there, like especially you had that loss unfortunately, which I'm sorry about your loss from your coach
Oh, it's all good.
initially. And that must have like were you thinking about him at all? And like was it like was it hard to adjust to another coach being that you had such a strong connection beforehand?
Of course, it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard because I really, truly took him for granted. Not really, but I wish I had appreciated him more. And I did appreciate him. I'm hard on myself,
Yeah.
but I realized like, wow, this world is way more business than I thought. Like certain people truly, truly care about you. Those are the ones you keep in your circle. And then there's your business people that, at the end of the day, it's a business and you have to understand that. I didn't understand that. I thought everyone was going to care for me the way that Reese did, and it wasn't the case, and it really broke me. Kind of shattered me, and that's what happened. And I couldn't fight the same because the people around me, I just was used as like, you know, uh, a bank pretty much. Like you're gonna make me a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
and
Yeah, it's kind of like
all I wanted was to be cared about. That's it.
yeah, it was like it's like the sad parts of reality, right? It's like, like you're thinking about it, at young 20 something, heading 21 was your first fight, but even younger than that, you have this thing in your head like, okay, I'm going to make it to the UFC. It's going to be this picture perfect. Like I'm going to be a cool kid, fighting in the cage and, making it out effortlessly, and then you get there and you're like, okay, well, now I have to train really hard. I have to fight, and then I have new coaches and I have to deal with actually the political social side of
Mhm.
it, which is
Oh,
when you think about the perfect picture, you're not really sometimes you get blinded by the light, as The Weeknd says in his song.
Yeah, true. Oh, the weekend. I love that you just quoted the weekend.
It was such a Gen Z
I
thing to do. And
love
as I was
that.
saying it, I was
I
like, I'm
love
really
it.
quoting the weekend right now. But you do get blinded by the light and
That's hilarious.
you kind of sometimes don't see like, everything. And I kind of relate. Like I'm getting slapped with reality every day,
Yeah.
just like, streaming, doing this is like the really fun part. And then, it's always the back end that, you really got to think critically, make your moves the right way. And especially with you have like not only like your fighting career, but it's also you have to have your persona, the press side of yourself
hmm
as well, which you had to learn. How did you learn to deal with like press, doing interviews and that whole side of the industry?
Before I touch on that, I do want
Yeah.
to say, what you just turned 20?
Yeah, a month ago, exactly.
Happy birthday, happy belated birthday. I saw
Thank
that
you.
and I was like, oh, I gotta, remember to tell you that on this podcast. So
Thank
happy
you.
belated birthday. I know I'm a month late, but happy
It's
birthday.
okay. Don't worry, I appreciate you.
Anyways, yeah, no, a lot of failures do that. You can't give yourself to everybody, and you know what I'm saying? You have to give yourself to a certain amount of people because if you let yourself be vulnerable to everyone, they're going to take advantage of you. You have to let yourself be vulnerable to the right people. And once you know that, another thing is not taking anything personal. I used to, especially early on in my fight career, oh my gosh, people just go, especially in fighting. Fight fans are, they're ruthless. So I used to
Yeah,
get so like worked up, about certain things, but I just I don't take anything personal now. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna block you, and I don't have to deal with you anymore. So people will say, oh, I'm not gonna block that person because it's one less person I'm gonna lose. It's like, no, you can't look at it that way. Block the person, anyone that brings negativity in your life, because yeah, it's one less person that you're gonna lose, but it's also one less negative bubble that you have to deal with that is going to be in your ozone. You don't want that in your space. You want authentic fans anyways. You know what I'm saying? You don't want negative people around you.
I agree. You got to block out the negativity. It's hard to do that on
hmm
social media, especially like, the
Yeah.
bigger you are, the more eyes you have on you. I mean, like, you see all these like, whether, you're in the UFC and on like a crypto Twitter and you have this big
hmm
audience. There's always going to be hate. So obviously you have to learn how to mitigate that, block it out and just kind of have that almost tunnel vision in a way of like your goal and what
hmm
you want to do. I remember when I first started, I got a ton of hate on social media, but it was like I knew, like,
Oh
okay, as long
yeah.
as I prove myself, keep going, keep doing
Yep.
positive things, eventually people will understand. And a lot of those people did end up understanding, and we like, we're nice to each like, you deal with a lot, like you physically go through a lot. What's a day in the life of UFC training?
Oh man, when I'm in camp, it's so
What's
much because you
camp?
don't just So it's called a fight camp. A fight camp is when you have a fight signed, and then it's 8 weeks of just strict, like everything. Your diet is strict, your training is strict. Now I'm out of fight camp, so I can like eat whatever I want. I can kind of, I don't have to go extremely hard into the gym because you don't want to go hard year round because your body is your tool, your investment. You want to go hard for 8 or 12 weeks. You don't want to go hard for like more than that. And even within the 8 and 12 weeks, you kind of have to like up, down, up, down. You know what I mean? Rest, rest. But so I run the mountains. I train jujitsu. I do kickboxing.
Oh,
I do wrestling. I do strength and conditioning. I have to do physical therapy. I have to have a nutrition at if you ever come out to Las Vegas, I'll take you to the UFC Performance Institute. And there they have, I'll show you the nutrition team. You can bring 3 guests. Like I take people all the time. They have a big cafeteria where you can, have lunch and pick out whatever you want. It's super cool. They have a
wow.
nutrition team. Yeah, yeah. The Performance Institute is awesome. UFC fighters are everywhere. There's, like I said, a strength and conditioning area. There's physical therapy. There is a hot tub, a sauna, a cold tub, which I hate, but I'll do it.
I know a lot of
Underwater.
people like the ice baths. It's a thing.
It's a big thing now. It's a big thing. I don't, it's like for me, I don't buy into a lot of that stuff. I do know that it's good for in the early morning. You know what I mean? It does shock your
Yeah.
system, and it's great to start your day. It is great to start your day. In terms of like, as a society, we're a hype based society. Anytime we hear any kind of hype, right? Keto, vegan, cold tub, you know what I mean? I'm just waiting for the crypto hype to
The
I'm
crypto
waiting for the
hype.
Bitcoin hype. I'm waiting, avocados. Oh man, I'm so glad avocados are getting less expensive now because
Facts.
the avocado hype was like, oh, can y'all stop like raising the prices of my avocados, please?
I like
And then there
avocados.
was yeah, me too. And then there was like the elevation training mask hype, and then there was the CrossFit hype. Remember the CrossFit hype? That was
Yes. There was a Zumba hype for a while.
yes, the Zumba hype. That was oh man. Then there was the sledgehammer tire hype. That was the big one.
Oh my
Where you
gosh.
hit the tire with a sledgehammer. There was that hype. There's remember the ice bucket hype?
Yes, the ice bucket challenge. That was for I forgot what it
Yeah.
was. ALS, was it? It was something
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting that
But
wrong. Apologies if I did.
I don't even know. I just know my point is I'm waiting for the Bitcoin hype to come. And it hasn't
Facts.
come yet, but you know what I mean? People it's so funny. Society is so interesting. People want to be a part of something so bad that a lot of times they just don't even think about things. They go right in. What are they doing? You know what I mean? I've done my research in crypto, so I know what I'm getting myself into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, it is the future because it's not controlled by humans. If Satoshi wanted to come and change his algorithm, he couldn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the fear of society. They can't manipulate it, and that's the problem. That's the problem. It's like if you go into a bank and you want to withdraw $500,000,
Good
half a
luck.
million dollars,
Good luck.
right? Right. They got to bring in the Brinks truck, and so people think like, okay, yeah, but I can send a wire transfer of $500,000 from my bank to your bank. It's like, yeah,
No, you
but
can't.
you don't understand. Even if you do, right? Even if we have the same banks, and I send a 500,000 to your bank, it's just numbers. It's not attached to anything. It's all false. It's all just made up numbers that's being sent to a bank. It's not anything that is attached. You know what I'm saying? And people think like, oh yeah, our banks are attached to this and that. It's like, no, it's not. That's why banks go under. It's because they're not attached to anything.
And that's what I would like to call, ladies and gentlemen, magic internet money.
Yeah,
Like, that's
yeah.
real magic internet money, to say the least. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I feel the exact same ways. And I've had family members tell me, oh yeah, like I could wire this and wire that, but what if it doesn't let you? And actually, Odie, you would
Hmm.
I think it's February 2021, where the whole interbanking system actually shut off because of a technical issue, where it seems as though you could just
Mm.
flip a switch essentially and the entire system went down. So if you were trying to wire money, you were trying to move money, make deposits, whatever, it didn't work. And that was like 12
Hmm.
hours. And nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
So even if you wanted to wire anything, you couldn't even do it. It wasn't an option. So with Bitcoin, it's always an option. You always have an option as to
Right.
where you can move your money anytime, anywhere, to anybody, as long as you have that internet connection 24/7, no business hours, no
Right. And
extravagant fees. Ridiculous what's happening now. How
it's
go on?
no. I was just gonna say it's crazy. It's crazy. But it's like glad that your generation is being brought up into this. You know what I'm saying? They can't fight it for long. It's going to happen. And I'm not telling anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. I'm just telling them what I'm doing, what I like. You know what I'm saying? I'm not giving anyone financial advice. I'm just doing what I want to do because I believe that this is the future. You know what I mean? We need change, man. How much longer are we just gonna print money and raise inflation? Like how much longer are we gonna how much longer is that like how many banks are gonna go under and how many like bailouts are they gonna give? Not only that, but how can you bail somebody out? There isn't money to bail. Like understand that concept. Where is this bailout money coming from?
So like it's so funny because they say the bailout money comes from a pool of fees collected by the banks that the banks all pay. But then where does the money come from? The taxpayers. When they said none of it is from the taxpayers, but essentially it is from us. So it's again just a circle of money, magic internet money, just being like put out there. And again, like it, who gets the brunt of it? Who gets the sheesh end of the stick? It's definitely us, the little people, where we go to the store, especially in New York. Odie, you go to the store, eggs are like $7. Like it's ridiculous
Yo,
now.
that's
Um,
wild.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. So they're like, oh, 9% inflation. No, like we have 3, 4x in price in some of these groceries. And a lot of people are on the edge. A lot of people can't afford to be like this. And a lot of people can't even afford to be banked nowadays because you have overdraft fees. You have less than $500 in your account. You get a fee too. So it's like you get
Hmm.
charged money for having no money. And what
It's
society is
crazy.
that? And how's your money your money if you're getting charged money for holding your money?
I don't
Isn't this
even
a little
know. I don't
backwards,
know.
Odie?
It
How
it, it is.
how did you discover Bitcoin?
Um, One of my friends one day was just like showing me. I've never been really good with words. I've always been a numbers person, and he was just showing me some charts, and I was like, you know, like he was showing me. I think it was like Forex at first. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, what's interesting? Like going over like certain analytical charts, and I was like, that's actually fascinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, huh, that's actually fascinating. So you're telling me this is the market right here, and this is what the market's doing. And so you can see the dollar amount every time, every month, or every second as the market goes up or goes down. And these are candlesticks, and this is bull, and that's bear, and this is like dollar cost averaging, and that. And I started like just absorbing all of it. I was just like, oh, then I started learning about stuff I don't really use anymore, like fundamental analysis and all the different type of analysis that I don't use really. But I was kind of like, this is interesting. So then I started diving deep into the currency market and what it actually is. And people started being like, well, crypto isn't real. And then I started looking up all kinds of different like I guess codes and algorithms and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a minute, money's not real. How can they say crypto's not real? Money's not real.
Yep.
It's paper money that's attached to nothing. It's not real. Crypto's more real than money.
Yes, the light bulb moment. That's amazing. So what year was this that you finally had your light bulb moment and jumped into the game?
19. So
Oh,
not too long ago.
that was a good time to come. So it was around your
Yeah.
UFC time. So it's like
Yeah.
you were really like popping off in your career signing with the UFC and diving into the crypto
Yeah.
rabbit hole. What a time for you.
So only about 4 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty wild. And when you started buying Bitcoin and things like that, were you telling family and friends about it? Did they think you were crazy, or were you kind of on this like little independent crypto journey?
No, it's like this. Everyone goes through this. When the market's going down, they're like, "Oh, how's your crypto going?" But when the market's booming and you know what I mean?
It's what's
They're
that
they're like
crypto?
they yeah, they're missing out. They're like, "Hey, so tell me more about how this works." You know what I mean? So I want to know more about how this works. Family members hit you up. So tell me about how this works. I'm like, "Oh, now you want to know how it works?" Okay. And you know how it is. But you seem like you have like a support system in your family where I'm sure they do they're all in Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Eh. Like my dad got me in Bitcoin. My sister loves Bitcoin. The rest of the
Yeah.
family I can't really speak much to.
But your dad and your sister, at least, they're, you know
Yes,
what I mean? That's what's up.
100%. My dad's like, he's been in crypto longer than me. He got me into crypto. So we're all good there.
That's dope. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is hard talking about Bitcoin with your friends, with your family. Like I said, like I have other family that like try to deny everything until it happens.
Yeah.
Like telling them about Bitcoin, CBDCs. Oh, that's not real. That can never happen. Now, oof, like
You just show them the latest bank charts. Show them
yeah.
the latest numbers. Show them the Federal Reserves and the trillions and trillions of dollars. That's just being
Trust me,
Dumped.
fam. I know. I know. And it's scary because it's like, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right that, the banks could possibly go down and, you need dollars that belong to
Right.
you, but even the dollars under your
Right.
mattress are not safe because even in Nigeria, right? They said, okay, we want to push the CBDC. Then they said you can only use $45 a day cash. Then they said that cash is not legal tender anymore and only the CBDC is. And that's where the trouble lies. So it's like, even if you're hiding your
hmm
money under your mattress, they could tell you that's worthless tomorrow. And that's worse.
It's
That's scary, scary.
it's but here's the thing. I do believe that more and more people are going to uh, turn onto Bitcoin because it's just a matter of time before that one person isn't working there anymore, and it needs to be another person who's younger than them who has been, investing on the side, and will be like, wait a minute, why aren't we doing this? Or it'll get so bad where they just keep printing money that it gets so bad that everything becomes, I'm going to use the word that terrifies people, everything becomes entrenched. Like, yeah, like banks get entrenched, everything. Actually, I was watching, whose show was that watching? Cryptos R Us. He used that, and I was like, dude, he's so right, with um, everything, because the more money we're printing, the more prices are gonna go skyrocket. You know what I'm saying? Because the more that it's not being attached to gold, it's like, what is our money really attached to? Like, what is it? 1971, I think, was the first time that we started to like be like, you know what? We're gonna just print a whole bunch of money, and that was the worst decision we could have ever done.
Yeah.
And the money in our banks are just going to be worth nothing. It's not growing. At least if you put your money um, into something that is going to be able to grow, you can at least, and over time, like if I have 50,000 in my bank account, over time, 10 years from now, my 50,000 is still going to be 50,000.
Yep.
I put my money in something that is going to grow. You know what I mean? I can turn that 50,000 into however much it goes into.
I agree 100%. And I do think that despite like the speculative end of Bitcoin, it's just like even our friend in the chat, Johnny, was saying there could be like a mass exodus to crypto because you have all these banks going down. We have massive amounts of
Mhm.
inflation. We're going to have to go somewhere where, again, we could be our own bank. We truly own our funds. And actually, when I went to Jamaica, a lot of people, like when I talked to the people on the streets here in New York, not a lot of people know about Bitcoin. They don't really own it. But when I was in Jamaica, I saw a
Mhm.
lot of people really owned Bitcoin and they're really
Yeah.
interested in using it, especially because like I forgot what the name of the currency is, but has wait, you guys use pounds in Jamaica?
We use Jamaican dollars.
Jamaican dollars, right? Okay. So,
Yeah.
because I know, like, I was talking to a lot of people down there, and it's just like massively inflated.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So here's the thing. We used to be governed by the British. So we did use
Yes.
pound at one time.
Yes.
Then the British left and they were like, "All right, there's no roadmap. Here you go. Good luck. You're on your own." So we had no roadmap for anything, no financial
It's
structure.
messed up.
Like, it's crazy. Look, let's see. $1 American dollar is probably like 160 Jamaican dollars.
Yeah, someone just wrote in the chat, credit to Chris Lawrence. He said 1 USD is about 156 Jamaican dollars.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised like I knew that, but
No, you were
yes,
pretty much on point. That was good. That was good maths, Odie. You are a
that was
numbers
it's
person.
no, it's yeah, I words though,
You're
excuse my
very good
French,
with
but
words.
shit.
No.
No,
No,
no.
we just jinxed. Listen, you definitely are good with words. I've been listening to you this whole time. I'm like, words of wisdom, 100%. And like I said, like I think a lot of people, especially in Jamaica, like you have currency exploding with inflation. Even at like places like
hmm
Lebanon, since 2019, their currency has
Yeah.
inflated by 98%. You need something like Bitcoin where there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And it gives you like that
hmm
confidence. And again, it's
Yep.
decentralized. It's not one entity that's like, yeah, 21 million Bitcoin right now. And then like when that's mined, we'll just put out 21 million more. That's not the way it works. And that's amazing. I absolutely love that. It's empowering in a way.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And not only that, but you can see everything. And that's what's scary. You know what I'm saying? That's what scares people. That's what terrifies people is
Yep.
that you can't manipulate it. You can see all the transactions. You can see everything, all the money, where it goes. You can track everything. Everything is public. We got to do a show here. Oh, okay.
Do you have to run?
Yeah. So you could. No, no, no. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see like everything, and that's what's great about like why I like currency. You know what I'm saying? Like banks, like you can manipulate people. You know what I'm saying? You could say we have $1 billion, but how are people gonna know there's $1 billion? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In like crypto, you can track, you can see every cent, every Bitcoin transaction is public. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like you don't know whose money is whose, but you see like wallet addresses. You know, oh that amount went to that address. You know what I mean?
You could piece it
So
together.
there's you can piece yeah. So there's no like oh well we can manipulate this market. You know, so that I do like. I mean, there is obviously its own market manipulation. Wherever there's any kind of money, there'll always be some kind of market manipulation, like especially with banks, in my opinion.
Yeah. 100. I
But
could get behind that. And even like, I love how you brought up transparency, because even today there was this bank, First Republic Bank, that went down. And apparently, like, all these banks, other banks are going to pump in billions or millions into this one bank for deposits. How do we know that's actually happening? Like, I
right,
know they're saying it on the news, and you might call me crazy for trying to, like, maybe put on a tinfoil hat here. But you brought
right.
up transparency, which is a great point. How do we know all these banks are depositing into that one bank to save it? We don't see those
Not even
transactions. That's craziness.
right. Not even that. Not even that. How do we know that those numbers aren't just fudged? Like what I mean is, how do we know like if a bank sends another bank $1 billion, how do we know it's just not like a computer system saying like, okay, now you have $1 billion. You understand
Exactly.
what I'm saying? Like it's like now you have $1 billion, but how do we know that it's yeah? Because you don't see the transactions, like you said. Where is that money coming from? We have no idea. We have no idea, and that's why the system. That's why people enjoy this system so much. It's the people who built it that they enjoy it because they could fluctuate it. They can do whatever they want. It's not transparent. You know what I'm saying? Nothing
Yep.
about this is transparent.
Facts. Even, halting stocks, right? Because they're falling so
Yeah.
much. The bank stocks, that's what they've been
Yeah.
doing a lot. And it's like in crypto, you can't do that. If a coin's going to get wrecked, you're going to get wrecked. And that's
Yeah.
like more of a free market than saying, oh no, like all the hedge funds are going to get hurt now. We have to stop and pause this stock. Like that's like, again, like showing you decent DeFi versus TradFi. Where do you think
hmm
crypto's going? You're in crypto right now.
I
You're watching the fluctuation
okay.
since 2019. Where are we going?
Hmm. Where do I think we're going? I think I see us going to um, being regulated. I think we're going to regulation. I see us being regulated because I don't know that people will have that much faith and confidence in Bitcoin to put millions and billions of dollars into Bitcoin without knowing that it's safe, meaning without knowing that like if the market does collapse, their money's going to be like not wiped away. And I think that fear is too great for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know enough about it. So I think not only that, but I do think U.S. is and the rest of the world is going to start, you know, putting more money into Bitcoin. But I do think the reason for the halting of um, staking and all that stuff is because they want to regulate Bitcoin. I think that's where they have to start. They have to start with things like staking. They have to halt. They have to say we can't stake anymore. They have to start with like smaller stuff. So I do know. I am kind of like kind of peeved a little bit that they're putting a halt on staking. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Okay, if it's for the greater good for crypto regulations, and you know what? I don't want Bitcoin to be regulated in the US, but if it brings change to where people can feel safe and comfort to put their money into Bitcoin and faith into Bitcoin, then okay, regulate it and tax us. Just do it already. You know what I'm saying? Like what are we waiting for?
Yeah, I just think like they don't know what to do with Bitcoin, because again, at the end of the day, we're going to probably get to a point where a lot of people just have Bitcoin in general. We're not like the need for exchanges might go down a little bit, because it's just going to be something that's used. And how are they going to track everyone's Bitcoin wallet and, peer-to-peer payments? And that's when it really
Yeah.
starts to get away from like the powers that be that want to take a cut, right? So
Yep.
the whole decentralized aspect, it's like, yeah, you could try to regulate Bitcoin, but to what extent when someone wants to swap it for fiat? But what if we can't access our fiat? The only thing
Well,
we have is Bitcoin at that point, which is what
that's
people
what I'm
experienced over the weekend.
and that's what I'm saying. I think there's only so much they can do in terms of regulation. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? I think it's gonna go, and here's my opinion. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I think it's gonna go the same thing as they do taxes, right? If you file taxes, you have to honestly report your taxes, right? So it's probably going to be the same concept with Bitcoin. I think there might be penalties if you fail. Well, they're going to threaten penalties. You know what I'm saying? They're going to threaten penalties if you fail to report, maybe MetaMask or certain things. But if you're using Coinbase or crypto.com, obviously there's a 45, 45, 85, 85 or 45, 45, some kind of tax form, which I printed the other day because I wanted to see what it's like. I have a tax guy that does that form from Coinbase.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to have us report our earnings through crypto. And I believe that's where regulation is going to start, is reporting our earnings. And there might be some penalties if you don't report accurately. If they find out that you're withholding stuff and details. It's just like how they do now with everything. So that's the direction I believe it's going to go.
Yeah. The whole regulation tax thing, it's not something that's in my field. It's above my pay grade a little bit. We're not
Yeah.
tax professionals out here. So definitely don't take anything we're saying as financial advice. That is in the description as well, a little disclaimer. But I do think that, again, like, the government's going to try to step in any way they can. This is, again, a new space that we're all figuring out, and we're still extremely early. So we have a lot of ways to go. And of course, I
Yeah.
think 5 years down the line, maybe even less than that, we're going to see a completely, obviously, we're going to see a completely different space. Even social media, we weren't using
Yeah.
social media the same way we were 4 years ago that we are now, not by a long
Yeah.
shot.
And 100%. And I think we can help change this dialogue, because I feel like, the government is like, oh, it's crypto versus us. It's government versus crypto. Personally, I would love for the government to work with the crypto field. And I would love for the government to just like be like, you know what? Like, it's time. Like, let's work together. How awesome would that be if the citizens of, basic society and the government worked and had the same plan, the same concept, and one of the same things and the same goals? How much better it would be to build this country. You know what I'm saying? But there's so much division between old money and new money, and crypto and stocks and government versus the people. I want the government and the people to get along as one, and you know what I'm saying? Figure out a way where we can come together and work at this as a whole, because I believe if we're on the same page with the government, and they're on the same page as us, we can have this could be the greatest country ever. I'm not saying it's not. I think this is one of the greatest countries ever. There's just certain things that need to be improved. There's certain infrastructures that are weakened. That's going to take a lot on the government side and a lot on the citizen side. And I believe it can happen. We just have to keep the faith and keep doing what we're doing. And in time, man, that's why I said time is everything. At first, there was slavery, and then there wasn't. First there was like, certain racism, then there wasn't. It's gonna be the same. The first marijuana was illegal in every state, and then it wasn't. So certain things, it's like, it's just gonna be normal. Like, we're gonna have this conversation probably 15 years from now, and be like, remember that one time when crypto was like in this loophole, not loophole, limbo, and we're kind of trying to figure stuff out, and now look where it's at. I'm hoping that's where we will end up.
That's exactly where we'll be. We're going to keep the faith out here and keep going with time and trust in the time and the efforts that we're all putting out there. If you want to spread adoption about Bitcoin, just tweeting about hashtag and including hashtag Bitcoin, that's spreading adoption. Putting out a little card with the Bitcoin QR code to learn about it in the local stores, that's helped spreading adoption. Telling your friends and family about it, not giving them the financial advice, but telling them this is a different way to store your funds. It's a digital cash. It's money that you own. Spread that education, spread that adoption. And I'm happy you're doing that. And you also have your podcast, the Wagwan podcast. Did I do that right? Did I pronounce that right?
You did that perfect.
Yes!
You did that perfect.
Let's go.
That was good.
I'm so proud of myself right now. So how did you start your podcast?
That's what's up.
How did you start your podcast? And how often do you do it? And where can we find it?
So I started my podcast out here in Las Vegas because, I wanted to kind of motivate and use my talents in other positive ways. And I didn't know how. So I met this guy in the studio and he liked my personality. And he was like, yo, come on this show and, give it a try. And I did. And it went boom. And now we're here and we're just driving this giant ship, rocket ship to the moon.
That's awesome.
And you can find it on Spotify and YouTube. It's called Wagwan Podcast here at the Sticky Paw Studio. We're doing great things. If you're in Vegas, I would love to get you on the show with my guy, Miguel from Dollar Cost Crypto. That's the channel.
Dollar Cost.
If you ever get a chance to check out Dollar Cost Crypto, you're Miss Teen Crypto. He's Dollar Cost Crypto.
That's awesome.
Look, I would. Oh my gosh, you guys would. If you ever come here, yo, he's got the studio set up in that. We would. Yeah, you need to come out here for a visit.
I'll let you know, and we could go get In-N-Out Burger. Do you eat In-N-Out?
I don't, but I'll take you there, and then we can go to the UFC, and then we'll do dollar. We'll make a whole day of it. We'll go the UFC. We'll go In-N-Out Burger. We'll go to the studio, do an episode on dollar cost crypto, and we'll just shit. We'll do
the
a whole
nutritionist would give me so much heat for my In-N-Out, though. But I won't tell them. We'll
They don't have to know.
Yeah, they don't gotta know. I want to get the T-shirt. I want a new 2023 In-N-Out T-shirt. I collect those. I've been doing it the past 2 years since I've been able to travel with crypto and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. If I come out to Vegas, we're chilling, Ode. 100%. It's gonna be really great.
Yes.
And thank you for go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say Vegas is such an infant state. You know what I mean? It's just in the beginning, everyone's moving here and things are growing. So it's perfect to get, you know what I mean? Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of parties in Vegas. They have all the nice hotels, and it's it starts small, but then it starts expanding. It's like the mini Dubai. It's in the middle of nowhere.
It really is.
Just all man-made.
Yeah.
Vegas is cool though. I have a lot of friends in Vegas, and there's cool events that happen there. So 100%, one day our roads will cross, our paths will cross.
Yes, it will.
It's gonna be a meant to be moment. And I'm happy we connected, and we met on Twitter Spaces, I think. And I think it was David Gottscheen's. Twitter Spaces.
Great.
And I'm happy we met, and I'm happy you're still in Bitcoin and pursuing all of this stuff. And I love your personality, how strong you are, and
likewise.
You're so positive, and I really enjoy that, especially in your position where people expect you to be oh grr, punch, you're really cool.
Thank you. I
so
appreciate
down to
it.
earth, and like I said, we're always gonna chill, and hopefully in Vegas you can show me a good Jamaican spot and show me good Jamaican food, because I feel I went to Jamaica and totally missed out.
There's a great spot here.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to talk more about it. But thank you so much for joining me on the show. And thank you to everyone in the audience for coming as well. Ode, where can everybody find you on social media? And can you give us a message from the heart? It could be about In-N-Out Burger that you don't eat. It could be about good Jamaican food, Bitcoin, crypto, the banks, your podcast, anything you want. Give us a message from the heart.
You can find me on Instagram. Ode Osbourne, Osbourne. And I have a podcast on Spotify and YouTube. It's called Wagwan, Wahgaan. I have UFC champions on there. I have Misha Tate, Jamal Hill. We have tons of different UFC stars and stuff like that. But if I had to give one message, it's just take the road less traveled by.
I love that so much. I feel like I was really meant to hear that. And I feel like we were really meant to talk. And I'm so happy that we did get to talk, get to hang out today, really get to know one another.
Of
Everyone,
course.
if you want to hang out with Odie more often on the social medias, check out his Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Everything is in the live chat right now and in the description. So please make sure to give him a like. Make sure to give him follows everywhere and show him love. Thank you guys again for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Everyone that was here for the Daily Zest at noon and now here again. And I will be live again at 9 p.m. Eastern. So in another hour and 15 minutes, I'll be live on twitch.com/Novo Pangea with the Novo Pangea game. Really cool team. And we're going to be talking about their packs and everything that they're doing. So if you're interested in joining me there, please head over there in an hour and 15 minutes. Odie, again, I appreciate you so much for joining me. Everyone in the chat, thank you again. Hope you guys have a splendid day, a great weekend coming up. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to smash these likes, subscribe, share the stream out with friends to show love for Odie and his story, because he really is amazing. And I learned so much and I feel so much better about life now. So thank you guys so much. Comment after the show how you feel about the UFC, In-N-Out Burger, Bitcoin, crypto, our future. Let us know. Have a great day. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.